Don't forget, you can reach the latest episode of Potomac Watch anytime. Just ask your smart speaker, Play the Opinion Potomac Watch Podcast. That is, Play the Opinion Potomac Watch Podcast.
From the opinion pages of the Wall Street Journal, this is Potomac Watch.
Welcome back. I'm Paul Gigot here on Potomac Watch with Kim Strassel and Kyle Peterson. All right, let's turn to Kamala Harris here in the closing week. She is relying on big names, Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, Bill Clinton's out there. We've got Bruce Springsteen, we've got Beyonce, James Taylor, a lot of entertainers who are appearing with her, although Beyonce disappointed a lot of people because she didn't sing. She didn't entertain. She just gave a talk at their meeting in, I think it was Texas. So Kamala Harris is going after Donald Trump as a fascist. But let's listen to one of the themes that you're also hearing, and this is from Michelle Obama, about the appeal of Kamala Harris.
There are folks who say they're not sure about Kamala. They accuse her of not providing enough policy detail. Some wonder, do we really know her? Is she too aggressive? Is she not aggressive enough? There are folks sowing seeds of doubt about whether she's who she appears to be. Now, don't get me wrong. Voters have every right to ask hard questions of any candidate seeking office. But can someone tell me why we are once again holding Kamala to a higher standard than her opponent?
Kyle, is she being held to a higher standard than Donald Trump?
No, and I think they have parallel problems here where she is not explaining many of the positions that she says she used to hold and now doesn't hold. Fracking is a perfect example. Trump has almost the opposite problem where he is out promising to make this tax-free and that tax-free and what else tax-free. And I mean, there's no sense that he's thought deeply about any of these things and really has intent to put them into policy. And so they're kind of parallel problems. But the thing that strikes me about the Harris campaign closing message, at least as we have been seeing it in recent days, is, I mean, there's still a lot of focus on biography. Beyonce also, talking about how our daughters are going to feel, seeing that there's no ceilings in American life, how our grandmothers would feel looking down on this moment. Similar to Trump, a lot of doubling down on issues that she thinks favor her, trying to get out her base, saying again that Donald Trump is going to pass some kind of national abortion ban, which he has explicitly disavowed and I think has no real appetite for. But she knows the polling numbers. A recent New York Times poll has Kamala Harris winning 54% of women to 41% of men. And so she's making a similar sort of effort to double down and say, you got to pick me because the other guy is worse.
This is one of my frustrations with the Harris campaign, Kim. One of the reasons people are saying, please tell us more of what you believe, is because she's not telling us very much about what she believes. She's kind of winking to the left and saying, I'm with you on a lot of these things. But she won't commit with any specificity on most of them because she doesn't want to alienate a lot of the Nikki Haley voters who might go her way if they could get some reassurance that she isn't going to govern the same way that Biden has in the last 4 years. So in some ways, the criticism that Michelle Obama is addressing is one of their own making.
Yeah, this is the problem, that in the beginning, she had mostly advisors for the first month disavow some of her previous positions with no word as to why she was in a whole new place. Even as she has become more open and out there talking about it, we still have no real sense of why she's in a different position than she is now. She hasn't really explained that evolution, as it were. We had an editorial just last week about one of her advisors, as you said, giving a wink to the environmental community saying, oh, don't worry, you know where she really is when it comes to fracking. And then when caught, coming out saying, oh, no, she's not going to ban fracking. So there's a real issue of trust here. Voters don't feel that they can trust what she's saying. I think this is not helped by the conflicting closing messages her campaign is broadcasting at the moment. On the one hand, with all these stars and the feel-good atmosphere. She's trying to recapture some of that excitement and joy, but that sits very uneasily next to arguments that half of the country is following a guy who she says is a fascist. There's not a lot of joy there. Similarly, if you listen to Barack Obama or Bill Clinton, they've been out speaking on her behalf. They're trying to recoup that whole Obama unity and Bill third way. And they're talking about how we all need to come together. She's a candidate that's going to bring us together. But then again, if you listen to her talking about Donald Trump and what he stands for, it certainly doesn't sound like a woman who would be president for all of America, but rather views all those voters, Donald Trump voters, with some suspicion and very badly in terms of their motives and beliefs. So I think all of that's playing in. And you talked about the polls in the beginning. There's nothing definitive here. And we also don't know how good or accurate the polls will be. But the movement has all been in one direction, and that's been away from her. And that's something Democrats are getting very nervous about indeed.
Well, so for Kyle, just to close this out with what we expect to see for the last week. If I were Donald Trump, pivot to less doom and gloom, darkness, and a little more optimism, and a lot more optimism, and leave Tucker off the platform, but probably won't. If I were Kamala Harris, I'd be aiming at those swing voters and saying, you know what? Here's why you can be reassured that I am not going to be 4 more years of Joe Biden.
I agree. I think that's good advice on both sides. If you look at the latest Wall Street Journal poll, it has Trump up by 2 points, but 3 percentage points of voters are undecided. 4% are going for third-party candidates, including the Libertarian and the Green Party's Jill Stein. So there are still some of these voters. I mean, I get that each side thinks that base turnout is going to be what is going to win the day on Tuesday, but there are still a lot of these voters in the middle that, for one reason or another, haven't made up their minds. They might be in that category of double haters that we've heard some about during this election. And I don't think either campaign is doing much to try to speak to them. And particularly on Trump's side, it's odd because in smaller settings, if you ask him, he came in and spoke to the Journal's editorial board. If you ask him about, are you really going to mass deport all these people? What about people who aren't breaking any sort of laws beyond crossing the border? They have American children. They have American spouses. He kind of says, we have to have heart too. I want to do something for those people. But that doesn't make for the kind of rally line that he really likes to give when he is out at a campaign event at Madison Square Garden. And so I think his trouble is he always is going for the applause line in the room.
Yeah, unlike when he was speaking to us, he did show that human side of things and should show it more. All right, so we'll leave it at that 8 days before Election Day. Thank you all for listening to Potomac Watch. We'll be here every day this week, right up, and then next week through Election Day and beyond. Thanks for listening.